After 50 years together, George's house didn't just feel empty. It sounded empty. The ticking clock, the creak of floorboards, the silence where laughter used to live. He still set one mug on the counter every morning, out of habit, not hope. And when he looked toward the garden, the one his wife Evelyn once loved, it seemed the colors had left with her. Every Wednesday, George went to the same diner they'd always gone to. The waitress still asked, "Table for two?" And George still smiled politely and said, "Just one, thanks." The truth was, he wasn't lonely for company. He was lonely for her. His daughter Emily worried about him. One afternoon, she stopped by, flyer in hand. It was from the local animal shelter. She told him they were looking for foster homes. He just nodded, said he'd think about it. But that night, staring out at Evelyn's empty garden, he whispered, "Maybe it's time I try." The next day, George drove to the shelter. The place smelled of soap and second chances. He walked past wagging tails and hopeful eyes until he saw her, a small brown dog, pressed against the corner of her cage, trembling. The volunteer said she'd been abandoned, hard to trust. George just nodded. "Yeah, I know the feeling." On the drive home, the silence in the truck felt heavier than he remembered. He glanced at the little dog curled in the back seat and wondered if he'd made a mistake. But when he caught her looking at him, just for a second, something shifted. The first few days weren't easy. She hid under the table, flinched at every sound. George didn't say much. He just let her be. Then one night, as he sat reading quietly, he felt something warm brush his foot. She had rested her head on his slipper. He froze, afraid to move. For the first time in months, the house didn't feel so empty. Their walk started small, just to the end of the block, then a little farther each day. Neighbors began to notice. Old Tom from next door waved, "Good to see you out again, George." And George smiled back, a real smile this time. But one stormy afternoon, Daisy, that's what he'd started calling her, bolted out the door, terrified of the thunder. George grabbed his coat and ran through the downpour, calling her name into the wind. Minutes felt like hours, until he spotted her, trembling under a park bench, soaked to the bone. He knelt beside her, gently scooped her up and whispered, "It's okay, girl. I've got you now." That night, Daisy slept beside his bed for the first time. And when morning came, George made coffee. 2 mugs this time. Spring found its way back to the garden, the same one Evelyn had loved so much. George planted marigolds again, and Daisy sat nearby, tail wagging, dirt on her nose. The world somehow looked alive again. One morning, Emily stopped by. She froze at the sight, her father laughing as Daisy ran circles around him in the yard. She smiled, eyes full of relief. George looked up and said, "She's beautiful, isn't she?" And Emily just nodded. Later that evening, Daisy curled up beside Evelyn's old chair. George sat nearby, hands folded, a quiet peace in his heart. Maybe love doesn't leave us after all. Maybe it just comes back in ways we don't expect. And in that little house at the end of Maple Lane, 2 souls, both once lost, found their way home again.